Hi everyone, welcome to my curriculum inquiry digital story. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm Sierra Young. I was born and raised and still live in Utah County, Utah. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm a white woman. I'm the eldest of 6 children. I currently work at a local grocery store and I attend school full-time. I'm studying to become a teacher and want to teach family consumer science. And also my ancestors are from Western Europe, which will become important later. I'm now going to introduce you to Autumn Peltier. Autumn is from Wikwemikong unceded Anishinaabe territory known as Wiki on Manitoulin Island. She is an Indigenous woman. She is the middle of 3 children. She is in grade 11 and for the past 2 years has been the Anishinaabe Nation's Chief Water Commissioner, which is a pretty big deal. The Anishinaabe Nation is a political advocate for First Nations across Ontario, Canada. Autumn was given the title from her great aunt who taught her the ways of water, the need to protect clean water, specifically that of the Great Lakes around her home, and the importance of getting clean water to every person. She aspires to be a lawyer or a doctor in order to continue advocating for and helping people around her. So I want you to imagine that Autumn and I are in high school together and we're taking an interior design 2 class. The teacher introduces a new unit and writes the standard on the board, which is that we will be able to identify architectural features and styles, including roofing, windows, columns, doorways, and more. And the second part of this standard is to identify the, quote, American adaptation of housing styles, such as a log cabin, a Spanish house, Tudor house, salt box, etc. And there's more listed in the standard itself. The objective of this standard is to notice architectural features that are considered common in housing and buildings around you in the community, which seems harmless at first, right? Turns out upon further inspection, it's not so awesome. There's a couple of things that I want you to remember about Autumn and my biographies. So I'm a white woman, and my family comes from Western Europe. My roots are European. Autumn is an Indigenous woman of color whose family comes from the Anishinaabe territory in Ontario, Canada. Her roots are with the Wikwemikong territory, which is part of the First Nations. So what's the disconnect? What does culture and ancestry have to do with elements of design? Turns out it's all in the history of the elements of design that we're being asked to study. One quick Google search tells us that all of the architectural elements and housing types that are to be included in this standard originate in Europe and were popularized in Europe or colonial times. So the question is, why are we only covering architectural elements from one group of people? I've included a couple of examples of housing and elements that are included in the standard, which are, of all of them, they definitely do originate in Europe, just to give you kind of an idea of what we're dealing with. So again, let's ask the question, why are we only covering architectural elements from one group of people? And the answer is Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism is views, ideas, narratives, ideologies, and lessons that focus on Western civilization, originating in Western Europe and extending to colonialism and now America today. It's very common in the public school system. Not only do they focus on Western civilization or white people, they portray it as better than non-Western civilizations. It is often taught as the norm. It's the baseline for how everybody should be. So to connect these ideas here, this particular standard, included in Interior Design 2 curricula, is Eurocentric because it only includes design features and styles originating from Europe. Further, it paints them as the norm, the most common, and the most accepted. So what's the issue with that? Why does it matter? It matters because it leaves out every group of people whose ancestry is not from Western Europe. It assumes that Eurocentric elements of design are the only ones to exist in North America and further insinuates that they should be the only elements highlighted. It ignores that there are many cultures who have their own elements of design that are valid and beautiful. It's narrow-minded teaching and sets students up to be narrow-minded in what they consider, quote, correct architecture. Finally, if we're looking at features and styles of architecture that have a history in Europe, why are we not looking at features and styles from Indigenous histories? So me and Autumn will experience this curriculum a little bit differently. You see, I see my heritage being represented. It is viewed as the norm and the most common. I have no problem engaging with the lesson content. Autumn, on the other hand, does not see her heritage represented, nor her people. Her heritage is left out of the norm, and it's hard to engage in lesson content that is alienating. She may realize at some point during the lesson that this lesson was definitely made for white people. Which then leads us to the question, what are we supposed to do about all of this? What is our next step? So if the goal is culturally responsive and inclusive curriculum, a focus on architecture from one area and specifying it as the quote American adaptation leaves out many cultures of housing and architecture that would greatly enhance students' views about design. So here's 3 ideas of what we can consider to incorporate more cultures into our perception of design in America. We can explore the beauty, style, and features of different cultures' architecture and their significance. We can compare and contrast different cultures. What is similar between cultures? What's different? Do different looking features serve the same purpose? Are these things for function or are they purely for decoration? And does it differ from culture to culture? We can also then ask our students to reflect on places in their community where they have seen different features and styles of architecture. You can even have them journal on a building that means a lot to them and connect it to the features of the architecture, excuse me. So let's go back to our classroom and imagine now that the standard has been updated, and it says this. Students will be able to identify key design styles and features from many cultures, compare and contrast design and elements, and reflect on architectural elements around you. The important thing about this is that my heritage and culture is still represented. That has not been taken away. Simply, it just gives more room for everyone, including Autumn, to be more represented. Perhaps Autumn will consider becoming an architect or an interior designer. So in making the standard more culturally inclusive, we have made a few positive changes to this lesson. We first created more space for students of color like Autumn to be represented. We have also exposed students to cultural diversity on a level that they may not have considered before, specifically the white students. We have finally incorporated critical thinking skills into a lesson that had none before, and we've created opportunities for more engagement in the classroom. Of course, there is always progress to be made, but I think we can give this new standard a thumbs up. Thank you.